What's up, everyone? I'm here with another podcast, Fueled by Purpose, and we have in the building today
Gia Lowe, co-founder of Curly Girl Collective, marketer, entrepreneur. Y'all don't want to miss this episode.
She is everything.
We're here with Gia from the Curly Girl Collective. And I guess the topic today would be to find out more about yourself and the stories, strategies, and mechanics that got you to where you are today.
Yeah, I mean, everyone wants to know what makes your company so successful. I personally like to open up the floor to first knowing, like, what's your purpose? You know what I mean? I want everyone to explore that, to know what their purpose, like, why are they here? Like, and some people haven't found it yet, and it's a ongoing thing. But I feel like you just seem well rounded, and you probably know your purpose, and you're walking in it. So I just want to know, like, what do you feel is your purpose now? Because I feel like it changes too.
You gave all the caveats and the disclaimers. It changes, it morphs, you realize and re-realize it. And there's kind of a heaviness to saying, like, what's your purpose? And you kind of feel like you have to know what you're going to do with your entire life.
Right.
So I would say I feel like the work that I'm doing has shown me what my purpose is, because it's sparking joy in places that should be really tired and really, like, not the places where you're really experiencing the light. And so I feel like that purpose is especially for this year and the years beyond, I'm mastering the art of being on my own side. And when I do that, I know that I can be of service. I can use my story. I can use the wisdom along the way to be of service to those who are looking to be better. Like, I feel like that's what it is. Like, for the folks that's like, I'm here and I'm looking to be here. And in between that is resistance. And I'm trying to figure that out. I am too. And I'm using tools actively. And I feel like that my purpose is to kind of be on that journey out loud.
That's cool.
Right now, still morphing, like you said. And for those that don't know, I feel like it's okay to be like, I'm not sure what my purpose is, but these are the questions I'm asking myself, and these are the places I'm pushing myself to show up in, to test and feel and see, to figure out what that purpose is. Because that question feels heavy, but
Yeah, I find that a lot of people find that question is kind of heavy. It's like, my purpose? Like, you mean like my life purpose?
Right.
I feel like, it is a thing that is continually morphing because we change. And right now, my purpose may be to be helping people find their purpose. But a couple years down the line, I'm going to be like, I'm just going to go retire and sit over in Haiti and do philanthropy work. And that's what my purpose is. And that's where God wants me in that moment. So I think it's just about being present to where God wants you in the moment.
Indeed. And listening to that.
That's what's most important. Yeah. So that's a good purpose. That's a great purpose.
Okay. I'm still figuring it out and learning and allowing my purpose to be morphed right now, right? But still kind of staying on course with the projects and stuff that I attach myself to.
So being in your moment and allowing it to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that kind of caught your attention, like, I need to get a grasp of my purpose as opposed to just letting it happen? Was there anything that happened to you even in this past calendar year that made you say, I need to, capture what I am or encapsulate my exact purpose instead of letting it happen to me?
I'm so glad that you asked that question, because yes, it's an intentional search, I would say. And that moment, what comes up for me when you ask that question is a moment, I was in California. So after I graduated, I moved to California. I was living in the Bay Area. And at this point, I was working in finance, risk management, and that was my life. I was in corporate America.
What's the timeline on this one?
This was early 2000s.
Okay.
Early 2000s. And so I also had another job. I was working in retail, doing the side hustle thing. I'd always been doing that. I'm a child of an immigrant, first generation born in the U.S., so always had these kind of multiple jobs, figuring it out. So here it was. I graduated. I'd come to this place where I felt like I made it. Like, they flew me out. They moved me. By the time I had graduated, I had 4 different offers, and from Texas to California, and I'm a little black girl from the Bronx, so that was very much so like, okay, I'm making it out through this education thing. So here it was, and I had, at this point, it's maybe 2.5 years into this experience, and I had cultivated friends and a tribe, and one homegirl and I were ending our night. You kind of know those nights when you pull up in the car, but the conversation just keeps going, and you can just keep talking. And so we were having one of those nights, and we were having this conversation, and I felt this resistance to showing up at work every day and questioning my work in the world, and feeling like really like I do not want to, like, I don't want to do this anymore. But I also didn't know what I wanted to do. And so in the safety of this friendship and this conversation in this car, in this moment, I said, I just want to do something interesting with hair and large events like the Oscars. Because in my head, the Oscars was like the opulence, like the, right, of events. And the something with hair is rooted from, no pun intended, but is rooted from, at 12 years old, my very first job was, I was a shampoo assistant in my mother's, the salon that she went to. And so...
Wait, so your parents are immigrants? And
yes.
Got you. All right.
Yes. And so she went to the salon. I went with her, took the salon owner and the master stylist took me under her wing. I learned all these things about hair and beauty, unbeknownst to me what I was accumulating, other than like knowing how to deal with clients and what the various things. I went from shampooing to basin heads to do perms to doing colorings, all these things. I did that all throughout high school. I also worked on a salon on 149th Street in the Bronx.
You think that's where your entrepreneurial ways came from too?
I didn't realize it until one day I was having a conversation with someone about something like this. And I was like, so that moment, let me go back to this moment in the car. So here it is. I'm saying, I want to do something interesting with hair and these events. But I was like, I don't want to work in the salon. Mind you, I've been doing this all through. In my mind, I didn't want to be a hairstylist or have a salon. Not that first of all, those are staples in communities, but it's just not the vision I had, and I couldn't figure it out. I didn't know what that was. But I realized later in a meandering path, like, wow, I'm actually doing some interesting things with hair and doing these large experiences. So it was that moment that made me, when you said, how did you come to the moment where you need to realize your purpose? Right. It was then when I was like, I don't want to do this. And what I want to do looks so different. Like, how do I place myself in situations to make that happen? And the journey was long. Like I said, this was early 2000s. So
that's a great journey. It's a learning experience for sure.
The whole time.
And it helps grow you. I have a question. I would say, how is beauty defined by you? Like, what is beautiful to you? How is it defined in your words?
Yeah, thanks. I think there's an aesthetic part to beauty that's like whatever is aesthetically pleasing to me or you or anyone. And that could be in someone's features, in the color of a flower and all of those things. Or if you go deeper though, when something like feels beautiful beyond like it looks beautiful, it brings this air of confidence. One of the things that I've come to realize is like beauty is a conduit to confidence. Like we were just talking right now before we got ready, like how do I look? I want to make sure so that you can feel comfortable and sit back and walk into that interview or walk into that meeting.
But that all that to say that I feel like beauty is like you're saying, it's confidence, but it's an inside job, right?
Definitely.
So do you feel like, and this is my question really for everybody, is like, in this day and age, we've seen a lot of plastic surgery. Now, I don't disagree and I don't agree. It's none of, I'm just like, whatever works for you. But I just feel like it's making a lot of our youth want plastic surgery very young. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And you hear like girls that are in elementary school, I want my lips done or I want my nose done. How does that make you feel? Like for me personally, I feel like they need to first learn to embrace what they have. Not to say that when you don't, when you grow a little older, that if that's really something that's bothering you, that you can't go and get it fixed. But to be so young and to be so influenced by social media and what they're seeing, that bothers me. Mm-hmm. Because it's like, at what point did you get to work on your soul? That me part, that I love you, because now you growing up and you're loving this person that you built instead of who you really are. So now I'm like, what do we do? what is it our job to step up and say something about this? Do we, like on my page, I like to promote, hey, this is how I am, this is what I am, it is what it is. And you know what I mean? And again, I like to say, like, one day I might want to get something done, but that's not to say that I don't love who I am right now. So how do we get our young girls, like stop our young girls from doing so much of it, especially so young? I'm not against plastic surgery, but it's the how and the when and how old you are and like why are you doing it.
I think it's like, how do you tell a young, it's a tough conversation, because it's like, when is it okay to start wearing makeup? Like, when is it, can a 15, 16-year-old girl just go into the doctor's office or
they
to
take
a surgeon?
their parents.
There it goes right there.
I've personally heard, I was with somebody driving the car and it was a driver, and they said that their daughter wanted a nose job for Christmas, and they were probably in like high school graduation, and I thought, my parents would have never let me do that. And I would have never even thought of doing that. Like, if there was something I didn't like, for instance, I had like insecurity, like weight issues when I was young. Never did I think I could go do something about it other than like, and not even working out. I didn't know nothing until I was knowledgeable in it. So it's like, it depends on what you're taught at an early age, So yeah, they would have to obviously take someone, but if they can't get it done, then they're painting this illusion of themselves that's not real. And that's where I'm like, whoa. You know what I mean? Like, all these little girls going to get lip injections. Like, no, embrace what you have. And there's nothing wrong with it, but I don't know. I just feel like we're losing out on a lot of the natural beauty of who we are as people, what we look like before we start putting everything on.
But I think this is so many conversations.
I was going to say, I'm writing bullets.
Like, you have to think about, like, the world is social media is a double-edged sword, right? Like, I agree with you. Like, it's tough. It's a tough time. Like, but those same girls that are seeing things on social media, they're probably getting bullied on social media.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Like, I don't disagree. But I guess it takes the leader of the generations to stand up and say, hey, it's okay to be yourself. Right. And that's what we're missing.
That's true.
Because, there's the girl that's saying, hey, this is beautiful. But what about the girl that just says, hey, this is me. This is what it is. And I don't care whether you like it or not. Take it or leave it.
And it's also what they subscribe to, too, right? Because, like, you have the Angela Simmons, you have the Meg Thee Stallions, all natural beauty, and that's what some women subscribe to, and then some other women subscribe to other leaders.
Yeah, it depends.
And right, like, but how do we? I guess
in school it's like they're looking at who's getting the most praise.
That's true.
Is the natural girl getting the most praise, or is the girl who's going and getting her stuff done or looking like plastic getting the praise?
At what point do the leaders step in and kind of guide those people? Like, at what point do you say, yo, you're beautiful? Like, what
I don't know. I mean, it could be lack of support, too. It's a tough question. It's a tough
conversation.
But
right?
When I think of beauty and when we were talking about it, I'm like, dang, like.
That's a great topic.
Yeah, let's talk about it for a second. So I think that the questioning as a youth around your beauty isn't new. I also remember being teased. About a few things, from having big lips to having a gap. And I remember going home and saying to my mom, I wanted to do something about my lips, which was so far-fetched because we weren't in the economic like background for that to even be considered a Christmas gift. Like, what? But
I need lips.
Right.
Got lips.
Right. Like, excuse me, ma'am. But I think that this and now as an adult, when we see images of what wasn't considered beautiful now kind of amplified, I'm looking at them like, man, if I had that when I was a little girl, now I'm seeing people with gaps all in ads, and I'm like, I really had a struggle with my smile. So that to me was like, how do we help? We continue to push out and change and control the narrative around what real beauty is. And agreed, I think it's okay to be neutral about things like plastic surgery. Like, plastic surgery to me, I have mixed reviews about it in that I'm fine. I feel like I'm in a neutral zone. I'm cool with it for folks that like want to make themselves feel quote unquote better or enhanced, but it needs to, I feel like there has to be like a few therapy sessions before people can sign up for surgery or something, like to kind of unravel like the root of it, because I think people think it's going to solve things.
It don't fix nothing,
and it doesn't, and therefore it spirals. Whereas if it's happening because I lost hella weight and I have extra
gotta
skin,
get this snatched.
Yeah, cool.
I had a kid,
you know what I'm saying? I'm
Maybe you don't. Maybe you don't like your nose as you grow and you want to change it.
There you
I'm
have
not
it.
against it, but
But
it's just
let
the
that
young
person
girls that
be
I'm
whole in
concerned
who
about.
they are, as opposed to seeking wholeness in this change.
Yeah.
That's where the ticket lies. So I think we can help by continuing to shift the narrative, but also we gotta, like you said, the parent is taking them in. We gotta have conversation with parents on how to maneuver and how to
But
work with these.
how do you even get all those people? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's like
it's a big reach.
I mean, the whole
a
thing is a
large
large
reach,
thing,
right?
but it starts somewhere, because that's the same way we felt when Curly Girl Collective was starting to have this conversation. It was like, how do we started in an apartment. I mean, that I'm not saying that's where everything starts, but you know what I mean?
I agree.
Like, to speak to the question that you directly asked, which is like, how do we do something about this current situation? It starts with like, that narrative, perhaps engaging parents. Like, how do I handle when my daughter or my son says, I want to surgically change something about myself because I saw it on a celebrity.
Right.
Yeah, that's you need to maybe you need a toolkit of parent-child conversations.
It's like it's tough because you don't know when
And
at
you
what
have
point.
daughters?
Yeah, I have a daughter. Yeah,
Yeah,
I have a daughter and a son. Yeah, I mean it's if my daughter came. This is me personally because I respect it. I respect all. You never know what somebody's dealing with internally. And the inverse of what you said, I think confidence is a conduit.
Confidence is very important.
Right, like that's like if you step outside, like that's how I feel good. You know what I mean? And I think in any business, if you about to go get a deal, that you put your best fit on, you gonna say I'm getting this deal or like whatever.
You're feeling good,
right? Like however you feel.
Confidence definitely defines that.
Exactly.
What would you? When you were gonna say something about your daughter, and I agree with what you said about confidence. Good point. About what if your daughter, maybe aged a teenager, comes home and says that? How do you?
Well, me personally, I'm gonna, I think it's a conversation. It's a great conversation, because at the end of the day, like that's the easy way out. Let's talk about why you feel that way. Let's talk about if somebody's bullying you, if like what is it, right? But if it's like if you give me every reason why, like no, it's not about anybody. It's just like I think this would look better on me. Why? If you're at a viable age, if it's 16, 17, 18, and you're saying like, I think I'd feel better this way, Dad. It's a conversation. If you check every box and you answer every question and it's not because of anyone else, then I'm not to say I would pay for it, but I would consider it.
Okay.
That's fair.
Agreed.
I don't see nothing wrong with that.
It's a tough
It's a heavy conversation,
though.
yeah. But it feels so normalized now, and it also feels reachable because it feels like, oh, I could just like even the cost doesn't feel. I remember plastic surgery felt like very Hollywood and very expensive for a long time, and I was like, no, like it's right reachable. Here, yeah, it's affordable.
Times are like think about 10 years ago how much times have changed.
Indeed.
Oh, we're in another time. Yeah.
Like you never saw. You rarely saw the fake bodies, fake everything on TV. You rarely saw. Think about you guys remember the tip drill video?
Yes.
Those are all natural bodies on there, right? Like times have changed. Now that's like true. A different demo.
Let's talk natural hair. So what made you embrace your natural hair?
It was a process, I'd say, embracing it. When I think about like when you embrace something and like you kind of hold it wholeheartedly, it was a process. I remember it initially, to be real, if I had to like pinpoint the beginning of it, it started with, like I said, when I was 12, I worked in a salon. Here it was, I was in college, I had my hairstylist, and it started with her saying, you don't need to perm your hair anymore. Like that, like you don't like this time, you don't really need to do that. How about we? And at the time, like I said, I was on a mission to be in corporate America. I was very clear, like I was on boards in college, like I was, and so there was a look that I wanted to have, and so she was like, we could grow it out with sew-ins or, do various things. So that's what I did for a number of years. And I wouldn't say I was embracing my natural hair, but I was letting it grow. Let's start there. Cause people think like going natural is like immediate. Like, first of all, women of color and your audience is vast, right? So they might not even know what it means. Like, I had an interview with an anchor woman who was of Asian descent, and she was like, help me understand, like, why is this important though? Like the Crown Act and kind of all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, I got to give context because that's not everyone's experience to think about embracing my natural hair. People wake up and like, why wouldn't I embrace my natural hair? Whereas for us, it's a conversation and it's a process, and people can identify with various elements of it. But it started with deciding that I was going to be okay with how it looked, how the texture looked when it grew out, because a lot of us are even disconnected with what that looks like because we may have been processing our hair for a long period of time and don't even really know what the texture looks like or how we're going to look with it. So it started with this conversation that my stylist planted in my head. How about we don't have to perm it anymore? And so, P.S., my very first perm was as a child. My auntie did it in Jamaica. My mother was actually extremely upset because I was like in Jamaica visiting family. My mom has picked me up from the airport and I'm swinging. And I was hyped. I was swinging. What's that called? No stiff. I was swinging, right? And she was livid. My mother was livid. Why would you perm my baby's hair? It was like a moment. And if you think about how many, like, there's moments with hair. I think everyone has like a moment in their hair story, whether they're recognizing that they're losing a little or,
Gosh. Why'd you do that to him behind the camera?
I'm sorry. We were rolling at that time. And everybody can, you know what? This is a safe space. People can identify with you out there in the world.
It is a safe space.
It's a safe space. And
the last one talking over.
Safe
I
space.
got about 4 or 5 haircuts left. I'm gonna save them for my daughter's sweet 16, her wedding,
and then
a funeral. Because these edges go.
they going, but it looks good. And so my point is, I embraced it in a journey. Eventually, that same job I talked about that I had in California, an executive that I was working with was introducing me to a client, and I had been doing this growing it out and sewing's thing. And I told you about the homegirl in the car. Like, full circle, homegirl in the car. It was like that crew that was like, yeah, take that weave out. You could go to work with your girl. Yes, because they were already kind of doing this. I showed up at the office maybe my first couple days of like my hair is out. And by my hair is out, I mean my fro was out, but I had like a little headband on. I maybe had like a little version of a French roll, but like a bouffant little thing coming. It was something I did to it. Honey, and I had been prepared for this meeting, had my ducks in a row. I was leading it, and he introduced me to the client and said, and this is Gia, and she's doing something crazy with her hair, but, and continued to talk. And I just remember feeling like...
Yeah, that's not...
I thought I was killing it. He talk about, I got... What?
I didn't even do the meeting yet, right? He's introducing me. I remember they came into my cubicle kind of...
Now she's doing something crazy
with her hair. And at that time, I didn't even think like, go to HR. I didn't think sit down, have a teachable moment. I didn't think about microaggressions. I don't even think we had those words yet, for us to kind of fall back on. And I just swallowed it and pressed on, killed the meeting, continued to have a professional day. But it sat with me that he felt like he needed to explain my hair to her, and he explained it in that way.
You still know him?
No.
What's his name?
I can't do that.
You gotta do that. Somebody gotta find him so he can know. So if this finds him, he knows that was wrong, so he doesn't do it to another brown girl. Cause that's important. Like,
that's the thing is like, I know that's you not probably the only person that this has happened to. Woman,
exactly.
This has happened to.
Let me tell you that is one of the reasons. Not only am I not the only person it's happened to, we all came together on an email thread, and we talked about all kinds of things, but this and other topics around this was what kind of brought us to this place where we were sharing, like, can I show up to an interview like this? Or this is how I'm received in this way. These
conversations are important.
These conversations are happening in our communities, and it was actually the catalyst that led us to bring that conversation from happening in an email thread to, hey, how about we get together and we talk about this or exchange whatever we needed in the moment. And gratefully, how it's come out in the world is through celebrating women of color and how they look.
Let's talk about your business. Let's talk about Curly Girl Collective and celebrating natural beauty.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that a bit.
Well, I am one of 5 partners and founders of an organization called Curly Girl Collective. We are essentially, we call ourselves an activation agency, which means we tell stories. Like we help to create and build and share experiences with women of color and people of color. And so that came from, like I was saying before, an email thread. There was a group of us. It was actually called the Natural Hair Thread. And it started because we were exchanging about various topics around beauty. It really, we called it natural hair because rooted in hair, right? Again, another pun, but it was so many different conversations from products that we could use not only on our hair but on our skin and every other part of our beauty needs, but also how we showed up in the world, whether it was at work, it was at school, as a parent, as a partner, as a spouse. All these questions about, like, so this is how I look, I'm feeling some kind of way about it, and I need a place to talk about it. I need somewhere that serves these needs. And that was happening in the thread. We were emailing every day, like, I got an interview, you think I can go? I'm gonna have to let the afro out after I get hired. Or, I have a first date, we met online, but in the pictures I had a weave, I had braids, and now my hair is out. Girl, what you think he's gonna say? Or what it was nonstop. And then it would be other things like recipes, and like, because we're whole people, right? It doesn't stop there. And so we had this bright idea one day, like, how about we all just get together? And it started there. So we got together in my now partner Tracy's apartment in Brooklyn in 2010. In 2010. And it's 2020. So This is 10 years.
10 years.
Wow. Right.
Wow.
Let me put a pin in that real quick. For folks that are Instagram lovers and social media lovers and glamorize entrepreneurship and what it looks like, those images do not show you 10 years.
Oh, absolutely not.
and the non-pretty parts, the parts they don't talk about. And so, there's just that. That's a whole topic. But anyway, here it was in 2010. We said, let's get together. And so we did at the apartment. And it was great. We had a good time. We talked about everything. Topics were vast. And we also, we got some products from some cool local people at the time. Hair Rules, Dickie, if you're familiar with.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, our had donated some products to give to the group, and a couple others like Miss Jessie's and the like. And so we did it, and then a group of us came together and was like, yo, we need to do this again for more people. Maybe there's other people, not just in the thread, that also talk about this and like need stuff. Like, we should do it again. And so we, when you decide to do something, of course, it's like, it's exciting until it's like, now we're doing it, we're executing, we're putting our money on it, we're putting our time on it, right? And so then the core folks kind of came together, and the very first event that Curly Girl Collective did out of this calling and out of this need was called Creative Expressions. And it was at an art gallery in Chelsea, and it was more than we could have imagined at the time, because we had this thread that we started an Instagram page at the time. Instagram was brand new. We started all the platforms that are out there, of course. And at the same time as us, we were building this collective of people that also felt and looked and was looking for the information that we were looking for. And so this first event, we didn't know what to expect. Of course, maybe the homies will support. When 300 people came, we were like, whoa, that was huge.
Right.
Now we call it a micro event, but that was huge. And it was great. We had a live artist there. Our very first partner was Miss Jessie's. They came and did what we consider to be the very first live big chop. And for those who may not know what big chop is, you've been growing out your permed hair and you want to cut the permed hair off.
Did big chops at the event?
We did the first ever.
That's awesome.
A live big chop. This was in 2011 in May. We did a live big chop. Miss Jessie's did it. TT and Miko were there. We had a model. We did a whole contest online. Like, if you've been growing out your hair, you want to chop from these celebrity hairstylists, come to Collective Expressions. We're gonna have this. We have a live artist. Like, we put it all together.
So
and it was also different than the standard meetup, because beauty has been coming together, right? They do conventions. We see the roles of brands.
Watching somebody get a haircut.
But it was wild, right? And because it was like, we all feel the terror and being vulnerable and cutting our hair and not knowing what it's gonna look like. Especially like, I've never had my non-permed hair just exist on my head. Like, what is that gonna look like? And she happened to be a model.
Are you supposed to consult with your partner before you cut your hair, or do you just do it?
So I had done the big chop, and big chop terms means your hair's growing out from the perm, you cutting off the perm. The cut I'm talking about is I've shaved my sides. So I have a hat on, but I have a mohawk. And I was in a relationship at the time that I was deciding to do that, and my hair was long, so it was like a thing. Like, I'm about to cut this off, and I had mixed feelings. I was like, am I gonna look masculine? Like, what is it gonna be like? So I did have a conversation. It wasn't really consulting with him, but it was sharing with him that I was thinking about doing this, and hearing him. But I don't know that it might have impacted me. He was down for it, so I don't even know if he wasn't would have changed my mind. Probably not. But I think having a conversation with your partner is nice, depending on the nature of your relationship. But it should not they should not decide for you.
Just a fun conversation with them.
Yes.
Just for fun.
Just hey, what did you think? I mean, sometimes they might discourage you if they like.
Or what do you
like
think?
Girls like that, and you just looking.
Now that's true. Ultimately, the decision around what you do with your body and your hair should be up to you. But yeah. But I don't want to escape from what Trevor is bringing up, because actually back in 2012, Curly Girl Collective, we did an event called Main Attraction, which we had a panel. You remember that?
Yeah.
No, you do not.
Yeah, I have friends at work. Well, but that's a whole nother topic. Yes. They
What?
have followed me from the very beginning, from college.
I love you from here. That makes me.
And the work, I'll say, not
That,
just you, but
yeah, the work.
Yeah.
I appreciate
They
that.
were very natural in college from the time they came in up. And so right when we graduated is when I guess things started to pop off and people started to do things. So they were
In that
following,
life
I'll say,
already.
the trend.
Yeah.
I don't like the word trend, but they were when it was a trend, they were following the trend instead of until the precedent, like the standard.
There you have it. Right.
They're all in Atlanta now, so it's like.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. Thank you for that. So back in 2012, we did an event to have this very conversation, because it's true. Sometimes a guy might not be attracted to that first stage, even though you were dating, and there's a lot of nuances to it. At the end of the day, you're with the person, and there's going to be ebbs and flows in that relationship, and that might be one of them. And you keep going or you don't. But it is a topic that comes up, and maybe there needs to be some kind of like talking points that guys can use to to safely have a conversation around it. But at the end of the day, he needs to just know I'm dealing with her and she's beautiful. Like, really, it also should have him question some things about how he defines what beauty is. But you're right. I don't want to discredit. Not every style looks good on everybody.
Yeah,
That's a fact.
But if you get like, so there's arenas, right?
That's about style, though.
You get a low cut, you gotta shape up, and your hairline's like, and your man's like, oh,
nah, that's not.
That's the
Now you got to have
That's
the
different. That's called having a bad hairstylist or a bad
correct, and
barber
your man needs to definitely say something.
Then you
But
need
how
to
do you
check.
tell you?
You tell them.
Like,
shit
babe,
is-
they messed up
is-
your line.
That's different.
Guys do that.
That's
What?
different.
Like, when I had it shorter than that,
Yeah,
they're looking at the name. Like,
they
have
have or
you up.
or if they do too much of a masculine line here. Yeah, because I go to barbers, so I feel you. No, that type of stuff you have to. But in an arena where you know that she is coming into kind of an exploration of like, I used to wear this type of style all the time, and now I'm going to let my hair be out. There does need to be some sensitivities. But you can also contribute by, hey, let me make you an appointment to go to your favorite natural hairstylist. Like, you can contribute with
You also better love me from the
resources
inside out, brother.
period.
If you don't love me on the internal side, then you won't love me like this.
And even just dating. What if it's like, I'm just dating you maybe 4 months
Maybe
and it's
I
not
don't even
love?
like you like that. Maybe I'm trying to scare you.
Maybe I'm trying to get out of
That
this.
part. That part. Let me ask the flip side. What about when a dude is trying to do something new with his beard or something, and he do something that look like
You got
patches, or
Oh,
like
that's
he
the
trying
thing.
to do the scruff
You guys
with a
recognize
brush?
patches?
Some
Yeah,
dudes
I've
trying to
seen
have a
that,
beard and they shouldn't be trying to have a
You
beard.
see, guys think they just
Some
invisible.
dudes cut. They trying to do too
What am I
much,
doing?
or they
Baby, just cut it off.
and
Just cut it off.
so how do we
When
have
it's
these
this-
conversations with them? Because maybe
I
how
pull.
was maybe your lady was like, babe, you going a little light on top. Do you want me to get you some Rogaine? Wait, what did she say to him?
She said, "Oh, yours is connected." You say you goddamn right.
No, that's a good beard. That's a good
beard. That's a good beard,
but what
brother.
if you were dealing with like men deal with hair loss? Everyone deals with hair loss. Like, what if your woman noticed it? I'm just saying, other people can it can resonate with others. Okay.
I don't. Your hair looks nice and
It
dark.
does
to
look
me from
nice.
here.
I don't know what you talk about.
You see, I think brothers, we didn't know that y'all knew about the patchy beard.
know.
I've been
Oh, come on.
because when I grow
How can
mine,
we
there's
not
a
know?
gap.
How can we not know? How can we not know? Like,
The same way you see my scalp.
and we
I can
call
see that.
y'all that in our group chats. You know the one with the patches?
Oh,
You might be named Patches, and that might just be your nickname in my
In the
phone.
group chat. In the
Katrina, have you talked to Patches lately?
you got patches in your phone?
patches.
I take it back.
If
I'm
you
sorry.
have patches, be gentle with yourself. But
You
go
doing
to
the
your
best you
barber
can.
and get.
All right, but wait. So, all right, back to the.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Is it because we had the wig
Sorry,
conversation?
sis, man.
We had the male wig conversation. Is that acceptable?
No.
I'm not. You a brother. It's not. It's unacceptable for you. It's unacceptable. The
Male
wig.
wigs and weaves and male hair replacement.
No, I think the hair replacement's a different thing because that's your hair. But
No, it's not.
Yes,
Yes,
it is.
it is.
They plant the root.
Okay, so man, when you
Hair
say
plugs.
wigs, you mean the plugs?
yeah, no.
No.
Not the plugs, the stuff that they glue.
A
The
weave.
glue, yeah.
A
I
weave and
saw,
a wig.
Like, they do it on. There's a Facebook.
They
video
snatch it
going
off.
around
That's
where they
using
do
B
that
Gen.
beard,
Are they
and
using
then
that?
the same thing on the head.
Is that okay?
Beijing? They need that Beijing,
Beijing
is
is
not
it,
okay
bro.
to
If
me
I
any
see
longer.
you pull out the Beijing, the tar top.
There's different cities that love it. Like Philly does it. Some other cities do it.
No, I've seen
No,
like
the
full
Beijing
hair,
and the
like,
beard to
look like
add an extra HD. I respect.
It's because they were trying to satisfy the patches.
But if you got a hole on the top of your head,
and you put that Beijing on top,
That's not it.
Don't say nothing because I went to a barber, right? And my man, because when your hair go out, you can see get this camera out of my face. you see the patches going in, right? In the corners.
yeah, I got the corner issue
Yeah,
too.
so
But
he's like, yo, brother. He pulled out some dye. I said, shit. I said, what you about to do with this dye?
he's helping you
He
out.
said, let me paint you up. I said, hey, bro.
Let me
Have
paint you
some
up.
respect.
Did he
He's
paint
helping you out.
he
Are you
paid
painted
it.
right
Yeah,
now?
he-
I let him try it.
No,
And
you
it
tried
look
it. No,
alright. It
he
look
ain't tried it.
alright.
You tried it.
It look alright.
It wasn't bad.
It's not bad, but if you're trying to color in non-hair follicles
Ooh, no,
places,
no,
like
no,
you're
no.
coloring in skin and making that's unacceptable.
Just grow your little
Man
mustache
weaves
call it
and
a
man
day.
wigs is a topic. It can be taboo. It can be
All
double
right, but
standard.
Hold on. Exactly, it's a double
There's
standard.
Tell
double
people, honey, I
standard.
got hair under here, so if it all goes wrong, I can rip this thing off, and there's hair.
Got
I
you.
do this because I want to do it.
All right.
Now, not because you have to.
Right, I can take it off, and everything will be all right. And there's nothing wrong with not having hair. You could plop a wig on. What's wrong with that?
We are talking, so it's
Talk
okay
about
for
men.
men to pull up.
I mean, listen.
If it looks
there's
good,
a time and a place for
We have
everything.
a really good hairstylist in Atlanta that does it. On
I know
Katrina,
there's
you're
some
not
good
hearing
ones.
me. If
Don't
you
get
and
me
I
wrong,
kick
there's some
it,
good
if we
ones.
kick it, and I have a Caesar, and then on our next date on Saturday, I pull up with
That's
dreads.
not how it works.
I'm
That's not how
asking,
the
why
man.
not? But a woman
That's
can
not
do
how
it,
the
right?
man
It's
weave
a little,
works.
it's a little much. You're a male, and like you're a man.
So there is a double standard.
No,
You know what
it's
there
not that it's
is.
double
No, it's a
standard.
preference. It's not a double standard. It's a preference, right? Because there's some women that might be okay with that.
Nah,
With the
you're
man
I'm not
showing
dating
with
nobody.
three different
If I
hairstyles.
would be okay with it, I'm gonna say probably.
There's three.
Okay.
There's multiple questions happening here because the man weave, right? You probably need to see a video. A man weave is where they make like it looks like a
I know you're
Caesar,
talking about,
and
then
they
you
and
rip it off and ain't nothing.
but it looks like a Caesar though, and they rock it for like a while, and it looks like and they get haircuts, and that's their look. You're talking about men doing different
I'm talking about a
hairstyles.
hair transformation.
That's not how.
from
that's
low
not what
to
we
long.
Mean. That's not what we mean about hair wigs. By the way, By the way, there's dudes, men,
hair wigs that are seasoned,
who are
understand.
having receding, right? Their hair is receding, and they get weaves and wigs that look like their hair, and they use that as their consistent look.
Yes.
You're talking about a guy taking advantage, like, oh, I have a Caesar, and then I'm gonna go get a man like
A
locks wig. Now, again, I feel there is a double standard, unfortunately, that exists, maybe unspoken. I was actually at like a holiday party, and I met a gentleman who said that, like, why should guys feel limited in their hair? He actually got like kinky twists in his hair.
I know.
Look at everyone's face.
My thing is whatever works
Look,
for you. If that
you
makes
do not lie,
If that
Angie.
makes you at the end of the day, that face meant that wouldn't work for me. But if that is what works for you, you may find you a little partner that is okay with.
Well, on her birthday trip, I had regular hair, and then the day of her birthday, by the time
We're
everybody
talking
came
about
over,
men. We're not talking about
That's
us.
completely normal.
That's normal in our
There
world.
have been Sunday mornings where I see my sister take her hair out, and then Monday mornings
It looks different.
her
Now
hair
she
is on
might
the
be
floor.
dealing with stuff at work about that. Like she might be dealing with people at work questioning her about that. But luckily at home, we all know what it is. I agree that there might be some conversation. There may be some questions about his
I'm pulling on the dress next
sexual
episode.
preference.
Pull up a dress.
If a man is shifting his hair a bunch, I'm sure like people are probably gonna question
probably.
his sexual preference.
I'm
That's the
not
first
gonna lie to you,
question,
probably.
and that's just keeping it real. And if it's like, well, I'm just straight, I'm just exploring. It'll be like, wow, that's pretty avant-garde. That's pretty art. It would be like he's
don't
on
disagree
some
with
other.
you, yeah.
It wouldn't be like I'm just trying to explore hair. We would be like, that's normal. It would be like, yo, he's on some other.
I'm not gonna lie.
That's different than the man weave though, which is my hair is balding and I'm getting a weave and it looks like my hair. That's not the same as what I'm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Because I mean, like Tory Lanez, Vinny,
Yeah.
you've been on tour with him. He's been saying 4 years
What
ago,
he say?
I'm gonna fix my hairline. He's been saying that forever. Like, I'm gonna fix my hairline. I'm gonna fix my hairline. I'm gonna fix my
So
hairline.
what's he gonna do?
He fixed his hairline.
Oh, what did he
but
do?
that's fine.
He got
He got
implants.
fine.
the pull the hair
The
from the back.
implants
to
is
the
the implants is the thing.
I think that's fine.
I agree, and I also think
Fix your hair,
women
that's
do
fine.
that for edges that have been
Yeah, them snatched
missing
out. Yeah, just-
because
I got
it's
a
not
couple-
gonna grow. Usually, it's not gonna
This
grow
gonna be-
back without a
You gotta
medical
plan- you can do that.
intervention.
You
Yeah,
can do that.
I'm working.
Plan
with
it on
Yeah.
But LeBron ain't do it.
Yes, he did.
No, he did.
He did.
Yeah.
I'm late.
It
Yeah.
Excuse
look good.
me. It do. Men changing their hair from like Caesar to Afro to locks is going to raise an eyebrow and be like, "What's he about?"
There's a
I'ma say
change
that.
coming. A change is
And
coming.
maybe that's true.
And
I
be
wouldn't say
ready
that,
for
but
it.
Prince used to do different things with
I
his
think
hair a
the
little
most-
bit.
You talking about
colors
Prince?
and
You
people
can't
talking.
compare regular people to Prince.
You're right. I'm not gonna even argue with
You can't
that.
do that.
You're right.
There's social norms for people, and then
And
there's Prince.
That's why. But he was an eyebrow raiser. Like, oh, what's he about? He was that. The epitome of that.
Yeah, Prince is different.
Different.
He
And
cut
a guy who shows up with a Caesar and then comes with locks, I'll be like, he's different.
But people do that all the time.
Guys,
Men, I know a lot of males that have done that. Like they change their hair. Like I've seen it.
So
often.
they'll go from
Now,
a
I
Caesar
think
to like
the
long hair
Conversations come when it's multiple colors back to back.
colors.
Fetty Wap snuck it
Because
in.
you can do a Caesar, you can do locks. Right. That's why.
Locks is
Yeah.
masculine.
But I'm saying you
and
can do
works.
Caesars, locks. That's cool. But when people start changing their colors often, then
So
you're
you
like,
talking about
A lot of
colors, you're not
people do
talking about
that.
men.
males.
What? Oh, no, true. Okay.
Only one I can think of.
And it's usually like blonde. What colors are they using?
Blonde is okay. I think it's when they start exploring with like multiple colors.
What do you think about women
Come out
doing
the
that?
light, brother.
And
He
Angie,
got light blue, pink.
Oh, you be dyeing your hair?
his hair's blue right now.
No, I was talking to him. Oh,
No, he don't.
Yeah, he needs to dye. No, I'm
I
just-
dyed that, let it rock.
Stop.
So I let it sit
yeah.
for
So
a
he's
few months.
chilling with one
I
color for a
chill
long
on color
time.
For a month or two. Then I switch it.
But you think colors on women is totally cool, like purple, pink, everything is like. Angie's face is telling me something.
No, I'm saying do your thing.
Do your thing.
That's my face. Is sure whatever works for you. I mean, I feel like that overall though, for men, female, whatever works for you works for you. You find a partner in life that works for, and you rock with it. Do you care about our opinion right now at this podcast? Probably
Absolutely
not.
Probably not.
You know what I'm saying? Like I think that's just
Absolutely
what
not.
it is.
So ultimately,
Hair grow oil. I have some things I don't think anything can grow the hair, but I do feel like I have things can stimulate, things can nourish.
Yeah.
Yes.
have you seen it work?
Work. Yes. Hair. I don't think there's anything that's going to make hair grow in a miracle way. There's things that's going to take care of your hair, nourish it, provide it with the oils and nutrients and moisture that it needs. Yes. And yes, you do see the results of that. Making it grow, though, that's always a tricky thing because people think, like, if I take this thing or put this thing on my head, I'm going to go from shoulder length to brow straight, drop length to kneecap length.
Well, I just want enough to braid.
You got plenty of hair to braid. Are you crazy?
I got a cousin that could catch all of that.
Come
for
on,
you.
you have a whole head
Not
of hair.
catch all of that.
She'll catch all that. She in Haiti.
Good night.
We want to go back to
We
Haiti
need to
anyway.
bring her hair. Or yeah, we need to take a trip to Haiti. A
Yeah.
braiding trip
Pull
to
up.
Haiti.
I
She'll
love
catch
Haiti.
all of that for you.
You've
It's
been-
gonna hurt.
You've been
a little
drinking a little too much.
I'll give you some oil tips.
She's
I
telling
do
all
like
this
some
tea.
oils though. I'll give you some oil tips for
If
sure.
you have some braiding products you can recommend, that would be great.
I totally
Because I
can.
cut my hair on a whim, and I want my braids back.
I don't know why you think your hair's not long enough to braid, but yes, I can make some product recommendations depending on your hair.
That's what I said. It is long enough to braid.
Totally. She's
You're
bugging.
telling me I can't. Maybe I can get Danielle.
Ignore
Whoever's
those
saying you
people.
can't, don't go to them. Because they don't know how to do it.
I'm gonna start a business called Beard Connector. We're gonna connect beards
With dye?
with the gap. No, it's gonna be that oil.
Wait, that
What?
oil is not... That
Now
oil
your
is
skin gonna be
not...
breaking out because you're putting hair oil on your face.
That oil is not going to connect your hair.
I think it will.
Something wrong with y'all.
So I guess
7 o'clock.
in closing,
We didn't talk anything. Did we talk about the festival?
I mean, if you want to,
If you want
I
to
don't know.
specifically
yeah,
plug it,
dig into it.
That's one of during that time I've had. Let me tell you this. I'm gonna tell you a funny story. I was dating a guy, right? And this was probably 3 years ago. Prospect Park, I will never forget. He was like, oh, he couldn't go to brunch that day because he had a meeting or something like that. And then he was FaceTiming me after the fact. And I'm on the phone with him and I'm like, are you at Curl Fest? Him and his homeboy, who happened to be single, were gallivanting through Prospect Park. Like it was nobody's business. I was like, oh, so y'all went and pulled up to Curl Fest. Like,
Oh.
Not that you at Curl Fest.
Yes.
Because you had Curl Fest.
Yes, that was their thing. That was like an event. Like they would, oh wait, no, it's this Saturday. No, don't forget, we gotta go by the park. Literally for years. That whatever Saturday it fell on.
They went to Curl Fest. That relationship work out?
No, we're not.
He's
together
hanging out at
anymore.
Curl
So Curl
Fest.
Fest breaking up
He found another
relationship.
bit-
But
Excuse me. Curl Fest is
Wow.
where people
But
find
I
friends.
laughed at the fact that how much they were so eager to go. And it was like a whole group of guys. So in addition to it being such a positive influence within the hair culture and community, guys love it too. Because it's like the one time, especially in New York, like you're going to see that many beautiful melanin hued and even non-melanin, because some of our light sisters have textured hairs and are out there
Absolutely.
as well.
Yeah.
You're going to see them in one location. It's almost like
So you see groups of guys
it's almost
just
like Christmas. If they had like Love Christmas when you were like 6 and you knew your favorite toys were gonna be there.
Ooh,
Wow.
I like that.
It's like that. You're going to Curl Fest. It's like, oh, we're going to Curl Fest.
Yes.
mark your calendars. We're going to
Mark
Curl
your
Fest.
calendar if you're trying
So
to
you see
catch
groups of guys there,
Absolutely.
and it's just
Oh, yeah. Men.
are they
when-
participating? Are they just
Are they participating? Absolutely. So much so that we create activations specifically to have conversations with the men that are present.
That's
But
cool.
yeah, we work with a few brands that are trying to have conversations with men of color or women of color or the full spectrum, the family and everything in between. But men are there. We realized, so Curl Fest was birthed in 2014. And again, that comes off of many years of us, not only doing these signature experiences that I've kind of mentioned throughout this conversation, but also we have worked with brands if they're doing a launch around something or, doing something online that we want to kind of share about, as well as listening to and building this collective. So we had several years of doing these things. The first year that we said we want to bring beauty literally outside the box, like not in the convention center, not anything that we had ever been to or experienced before. And that's where the idea of Prospect Park and this this gathering there kind of happened. So that first year we were expecting like maybe 500 people, like we have been doing all these years
It was
of.
like the Booth Could Code Festival. You know the ones that they do on Randall's Island?
Yeah.
That's literally like.
It was definitely a surprise when almost 2,000 people came to the first one, and we had two brands that year. It was
You laughing at it now.
I'm
Two
smiling
brands.
at it
That's
because
amazing. Growth.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
the growth and the grind in between and all, like, and that's a whole nother podcast, is like all the tools and the self-talk that it takes to like keep going with that. From then until now, 2019, we celebrated our 6th year anniversary for the festival, Curl Fest 2019.
Amen.
And how many people are attending now?
So 2019 had a few different new things, inclusive of how many people. So for the first year ever, we celebrated the festival on Randall's Island.
Wow.
We celebrated with 35,000 attendees at Randall's Island this year.
That's amazing.
It was so beautiful. It was beautiful. And we had all kinds of, because all of us are most of us, one of the team is from the South, where we're kind of a mixed group, but we're from New York, and we were thinking, are people gonna feel like coming across to Randall's Island? And everyone came. They enjoyed it. It almost felt even, like a smoother process than ever before. And then we, don't get me wrong, we had our hiccups, we had our fires.
You always
like,
like to have that.
That's
come
everything.
on, like
That's
there's
life.
the truth of that. And what I want people to walk away from, if you've heard of Curl Fest or have not, or if you look into it, by all means, please do follow our platforms at Curly Girl Collective and curlfest.com and all of that. Or if you're looking for more stuff, like, continue this conversation. But we listen to ourselves and to our community, and that festival is so intentional. Like, the time that we spend to think thoroughly through our guest experience, even a client experience. My particular role is partnerships. I'm a partnership strategist. I work with brands and create kind of lucrative, meaningful partnerships. And so we are so intentional about it. Everything from the main stage to the empowerment stage to the activations that happen in Beauty Road to just who is present on the Curl Fest lawn, that is all selected for us and by us. And it's really a testament to this conversation and us kind of building and creating this collective along the way. We also have this marketplace that over the years, it's called the Curl Fest kind of vendor marketplace. Over the years, we have worked with some amazing brands that have grown. Like, it'll be like, this was our first experience ever vending at an event, and now we are on the shelves of Target, or now we are on the shelf, like we have a boutique here, or this experience informed, and some of the conversations I have with brands that are established, from the L'Oreal's of the world or the Revlons of the world, and the like, they're saying things like, through the images and the messaging of Curl Fest, it informed our ingredient story. It informed our images for this campaign, for our next launch, our next line. And so I'm so overwhelmed with gratitude that the fruits of the labor, we're able to see some of that right now. Like, don't get me wrong, we're on the backs of like so many movements before us. We're not the first people to kind of make really progressive movements around our people. Like, we are bringing to light some of the work that our generations before, much of the work that our generations before us and our ancestors have kind of paved the way for us to do. But it's stuff like that, like those kind of conversations with brand partners, to the conversations that we have with attendees or folks that come from. We have a mom who's like, I drove here all the way from Ohio, and we interviewed her little girl, and she was like, this is incredible. I don't see this in Ohio. I've never seen so many people that look like me. To the one who's coming from all the way from Switzerland or Ethiopia. Like, Curl Fest has so many people. 42 countries are represented. Over 42 countries are represented at Curl Fest, which blows our mind every time. Yeah. Like, people are making it a destination experience, and they're doing that before they even know. Like, there's no performance. There is nothing's announced. People are just like,
most importantly, launching businesses at Curl Fest.
Come on, launching businesses, launching all
lives
kinds.
are being
That's big.
changed.
These are the things that are happening, and also we're being a part of even shifting political change. Like we're a part of a coalition that's working with the Crown Act, which is a piece of legislation that prohibits discrimination against anyone because of their natural hair, which essentially is just a pretty direct link between my hair and my ethnicity. Like usually if there's a restriction on not having dreads or excuse me, not having locks or not having kinky twists or whatever kind of these rules were in the military or various educational institutions or even at your place of work, rules around not having a beard or, and that's typically speaking to Black people.
A connected beard, right?
Period. A connected beard at that.
Absolutely.
But it's typically speaking to Black people. So that legislation is saying that's no longer allowed. And we're working with a grander team that's working to make that federal piece of policy. So the movement has been, so like you said, launching businesses, political shifts, just shifts in people feeling like, oh, I can show up to work looking how I look. And now I have a place a safe place that gives me a language around how to address issues I may be facing or community that kind of gives me fuel when I need it. But yeah, it's been
So
such
it's
a
bigger
beautiful,
than you, and that's awesome.
so much bigger.
You leading other people to their purpose.
I didn't think of it like that, but
I mean, after
You're
I
absolutely
listening
true.
to you, that's what it sounds like.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, and grateful for that.
That's awesome.
So in closing, let's touch on that a bit. Let's touch on how do women in their own beauty find their purpose. What advice do you have to those women out there who can't find their purpose, and it might stem from not feeling beautiful?
That's a really good question. I think any journey of like where you're starting with a knot, like not worthy or not enough or like whatever that knot starts with, and you're starting the journey to like unravel that knot and realize that you are, it's a journey. So that means it's going to take a series of steps. It's going to take a series of tools, just like anything else in finding your purpose is going to take a series of steps and tools. I'd say it's a couple of things. Ask yourself some questions. And I'll get back to what those are in a second. But also, like every guru and everyone else says, surround yourself with people that to you look like they have an idea what their purpose is and how they're moving. It not because you want to acclimate to what they're doing, but it's because you can be inspired and you can be exposed to different things that's going to give you insight into your own. And then I would say stop questioning that. Stop questioning what's your purpose and start taking action in what you feel like your spirit wants to do or wants to move. Like, of course, maintain your obligations. If you're an entrepreneur, maintain your business. And maybe there's a disconnectedness or connectedness to your purpose there. That's a question. If you're a professional in your field, and you feel like your purpose is outside of that, when I say stop questioning it, meaning like stop putting the pressure of what is my purpose on your head and feeling like the answer is just going to appear magically. The answer is going to unfold in you and how you move, in the places that you put yourself in, the things that you execute, the people that you surround yourself around, and the tools that you equip yourself with. So I'd say those are the ways that you can start to get on the path to figuring out what your purpose is. And then again, like how I started the conversation, master the art of being on your own side. There's so many layers in that. It's supporting yourself, but it's also really getting deep into your self-awareness. There's so many things that you can do when you're by your own side. You can show others how to be by your side, but you can also be equipped to be there for another. And what does be by your side mean? It means the self-talk that's telling you all those knots, like I don't know my purpose and it's not together and I don't have it. Shift those, reframe those into, what if my purpose looks like this? I think you need to just start placing, like people are doing things, but they're just not even acknowledging what they're doing.